Lord, let us see your kindness and grant us your salvation.
Lord, let us see your kindness and grant us your salvation. Mr. Pincal and I have been working together for well over 20 years, and most often when this psalm comes up, this is the tune that we use to sing it. Because of that, it has been ingrained in my heart and in my soul, and I find myself almost every week of the year at different times singing this in my head. And I realize that it has become a prayer for me, that I desperately want to see our Lord's kindness as he works out people's salvation. And I also recognize that there's times where I can't see it, and I desire it. Our theme this year in Webster Springs was based upon a passage from Galatians chapter 6, verse 7. And there's a song written about it called The Garden. And here's a few lines I'd like to share with you. It feels like God is asking me some questions. If your words were seeds that were growing in the ground, and your love was rain farmers prayed for, if your life was sunlight that we all needed, what kind of world would it be? If you reap what you sow, what kind of garden would you grow? So the first job I want to share about, we had a gentleman, Isa Ias, come with us this year. His son Cruz was unable to make it, so he took his spot. Isa is a professional roofer. So because of that, his team finished their roof in record time, the fastest we've ever finished a roof in 21 years of roofing in Webster Springs. And the young gentlemen that were with him thought they hit the jackpot. I think they were all prepared to take naps the last 2 days of the week because everything else had been completed. And Isa said, "We will go work wherever, but could we please have a house where there are people in it?" You see that the house that we're working on for them, the family who has a long story lives next door, but there's still much work to do. We still have to finish the septic, the water, and the electricity for them to move in. And so because of that, while there was interaction, it wasn't like other job sites. There was a woman who was cooking lunch for 3 crews, so they were having 15 people over for lunch every day and a big party, and this crew was just flying through their job. But what happened because of that, what they couldn't see after the first 2 days, is that that crew went and helped other 2 crews with their roofs and finished them, as well as a job of doing some indoor paneling, and they were able to help them incredibly joyfully and humbly. But perhaps the greatest gift that they got to do was at David's house. Now, David's house, for those who remember the brochure, David had a tree fall on him a number of years ago, which has created a number of issues in his life. But one is, it was probably, of all the houses that we've worked on in 21 years, the worst. And not because of the construction of the house, but because of the garbage. It seems that he just takes his garbage and throws it outside of his house. So the entire perimeter of the house was filled with trash. And so in addition to the shingles that we were pulling off, Isa's crew joyfully showed up and spent all Wednesday morning picking up trash on this job site and the job site of others. As they were doing this roof, it is really a beautiful roof. The young man, one of the young men who was on there, reflected in some ways the difficulty of working on this roof. Was it really going to make a difference? Because what had happened is, we were blessed, our Vacation Bible School team, led by Sister, did something different this year. For all the families that we worked on, we not only prayed in their houses, but the Vacation Bible School team enthroned the Sacred Heart of Jesus and the Immaculate Heart of Mary in every home. It was so beautiful to walk into these homes and see our Lord and his mother prominently displayed. Well, as bad as David's house was outside, inside, it was perhaps worse. And this vacation Bible school team made a decision to at least clean one room for this enthronement of Jesus and Mary. The other thing that happened is, because of the young men that were on this job were really so competent and hardworking, that Deacon Bryce made a decision. It was a many-faceted decision. It was very hot, so for those who were hot last week, turn up your temperature by about 20 degrees by being on top of a roof in the baking sun all day. Deacon Bryce realized, these guys can handle this. He realized, I'm ordained. I'm a deacon. Maybe I should go talk to David about his soul. So while the guys are working on the roof, Deacon Bryce goes down and talks to David. Now David, who at no point thanked the young gentleman who was on his roof, started to talk to Deacon Bryce about his life a little. And he talked about how his neighbors don't really like him. And I think many of us can understand that in some way. If you had a neighbor who put all their trash outside their house, it would be difficult. So he was walking down the street, and someone mocked him about the boys doing the roof on his house. He said, "Those boys are great. Don't say anything about them." And he was talking to Deacon Bryce. He looked up at his roof and he said to him, "Hey, isn't it beautiful?" Now, being in Webster many years, I've known David, and once you get engaged in a conversation with him, it's rather hard to get out of. So I have to be honest, there's times where I've gone out of my way, I was too busy. Well, Mike, who was doing our cooking, was cooking at a grill and couldn't walk out of David's way. And he happened to go through the park. And Mike, not recognizing who it was thinking, "Oh, what am I going to do?" And then he says, "Hey, you should come see my house." Mike's, "Why is that?" "My roof is beautiful. I would hire those guys in a minute to work for me." He was sharing with everybody else what they couldn't see. The smallest ramp we ever built, we built this year, it was maybe only 6 feet long. It was really because we had a step of about 9 inches or so that a family of Hazel and her 3 children, JJ, Billy, and Becky. Hazel's in her 70s, and the children are in their 40s and 50s. They all have some mental challenges and physical challenges, particularly with their balance. And so what had happened is we got this request to put a ramp on for them. When Brian and I went to visit their house back in March or April, we got to the door, and they asked us what we were doing there, and we told them that we were going to do a ramp. And they said, "No, you're not." I said, "Well, no, there's a request for a ramp. I don't know who requested it. We don't want it, and we don't want you here." Okay. So we left thinking we must have got the wrong address. We left out of town. And I called back the next week, and they said, "Nope, that was the house." I said, "Are you sure?" Like, they didn't want it. And really, the hospital and ambulance staff, they're heavy. They cannot get this family in and out of the house. And they're very concerned. So we really need a ramp. Okay. So 2 weeks ago, we go down to set up. We show up, and Billy comes to the door and says, "What are you doing?" "We're going to build you a ramp." "We don't want a ramp. This ramp is free." "We don't want a free ramp." No, like, it's not going to cost anything. We're going to give you a free ramp so you can get in and out of the house. It'll be a great blessing. Free? Free. But he still didn't commit. And then we turned to go, and he said to us, "Okay, if you're sure that it's free, you can put it on." So I warned the team before they went that it may be a little bit of a difficult job. Fortunately, when they got there, it wasn't as difficult as we thought. They started working, and Billy, who's in his, I guess he's about mid-40s, comes out about halfway through the first day, and he says to them, "I was told I have to say something nice to you. It looks nice." So that was our big sort of advancement. We finished the ramp by the end of the day, and the family doesn't trust that they can actually walk on it. So one of our crew members started jumping up and down on it and shaking the rails to prove that it worked. Now, it was a pretty inexperienced crew except for a 16-year-old Dusty, who acknowledges the gift that he was able to provide to his team because his father's a carpenter, and he said clearly, "I learned everything from my dad." So the next day, this may seem very small to you, but it was huge. They went back to get the leftover materials from their job site, and Billy was sitting in a chair in the front yard of his house, something that really no one in Webster had ever seen. And on Friday, when the team was leaving town, what happened is he was walking back and forth along the road in front of his house. A simple 6-foot ramp that took one day to build, that somehow changed the perspective of this family. Now, the next one I wasn't really ready for at all. And so on Friday morning, as we were preparing to come home, sort of the focus of this homily changed at approximately 9:46 a.m. So in addition to having Sister Jessica with us, we had 2 missionaries from her community who also came. So I want you to understand sort of the Catholic situation. In Webster County, there's one church, St. Anne's. A few weeks ago, they had a really large crowd show up for Mass. There was 32 people at Mass. A week after that, there was 13 people who came to Mass. This is their only Sunday Mass. So if you dress like Sister Jessica in Webster County, you stick out. And so in addition to Sister Jessica, were 2 missionaries from her community who dressed similar to her. So there was a woman, Amanda, who had been looking for us the entire week. And so when she saw them standing in front of Catholic Charities, she thought, there must be the Catholics. So she got out and she spoke to our team. One of those team members then called and left me a message at 9:46 a.m., which was, "Deacon Dave, there's a woman, Amanda, here looking to find you and Damien. So she's going to come over to the park. We just sent her there. Please wait." So I'm in the truck that I was driving around in. I was getting ready to pull out, and Amanda pulls in the spot next to me. Now, unfortunately, and I say hello to Amanda and Brenson. They're actually watching from Webster Springs this morning. She pulls in, and she says to me, "Do you remember me?" I have to be honest, I could not recall her name. But I could recall that we had worked on her kitchen last year. And she said, "I just had to see all of you. I want you to understand, you didn't fix our kitchen. You changed our lives." I'm like, what? And so it really starts with that is really the extent of my percussion career. I'm not overly gifted in this area, but there's 2 people who I know who are very gifted in the area. The first one is a young man from our parish named Damien, and the other is Brenson in Webster County. So when Brian and I looked at the job last year, the reason that we took the kitchen was really for one reason. Only Amanda was there, Brenson wasn't there, but she told us about her son. So she has a large number of her own medical difficulties, a brittleness of her bones, which has made it really difficult for her to be able to work. She had a kitchen. For those who remember the pictures from last year, I want you to understand the center of the kitchen was about 1.5 feet, 2 feet below the sides. So the appliances were bent in like this, making them unusable, and the sink was bent in as well, so you couldn't open the doors. It was really in bad shape. And there was Brenson, who played the drums. So on our vision of how this was going to go, Damien was going to come, the rest of his crew was going to do all the work, and Damien was going to play the drums with Brenson for the week. So Damien bought a set of drumsticks to give him. There was a sadness. The job went well, but Brenson wasn't there during the week. Unfortunately, Amanda and Brenson's father are divorced, and Brenson was away at his father's all week. So I remember actually talking to Damien last year, sort of the disappointment of this really never coming together the way that we thought. And so what happened is he left the drumsticks to give to Brenson. So Brenson gets home from his father's on the weekend, and Amanda says to him, Damien left a gift for you. And Brenson, who was 11 at the time, said to her, why would somebody give me something? He doesn't even know me. And Amanda says, you don't have to know someone to share love. Damien knows Jesus Christ and loves Jesus. So he brought a gift for you. The video of him opening the sticks and the sticks going around and around and around is amazing. And he had really stopped playing the drums very much. But that day, he started playing the drums again fervently and the cymbals. And his mother is still happy, which is amazing in itself. So she recognizes that he has some gifts, so she takes a video of this, and she posts the video to her Facebook page saying how proud she is of her son. Somebody who is part of a foundation to help those with autism watches the video, is so impressed with Brenson's playing that contacts Amanda and says, would you consider letting us put him in this special music program for those with autism? We think he has a gift. When he goes back and forth between his mom and his dad's house, the only thing he takes with him are his drumsticks. In the gospel today, you heard Jesus say, take nothing with you but your walking stick. Brenson takes his drumsticks with him. And when he's in school, sometimes he experiences anxiety or tension or frustration, as can happen, which he can at home as well. If he's at home, this is all he has to do to calm himself down. He takes his drumsticks, he beats them, and he finds peace. If he's at school and he doesn't have them, he'll grab 2 pencils and do the same. And so his mother wanted us to thank by name Patrick, Emma, Keegan, Gabriel, and Damien. Now here's what's amazing. 3 of them weren't even able to join us this year. But somehow what God asked them to do last year was amazing. But this is not really the best of it. Because of some texture issues and things, Brenson did not have a very wide palate. Until the age of 7, he would only eat stage 2 baby food and a few other items. He couldn't eat them. And if you saw the kitchen or if you asked those who were there, he hated his family's kitchen. It's understandable. But he comes home that weekend, he gets his drumstick, and he sees the kitchen. Ever since that week, so it's been a year now, he has tried a different food every week. On Easter Sunday, he made stuffed peppers for his mother. And so he has started doing the majority of the cooking. Friday night is taco night if you're ever in Webster Springs. He makes eggs, and just the beauty that that has given. But I think maybe more so for those of us who are parents, on the days that Brenson does not cook and his mother's cooking, something that was actually impossible before, is he comes out to the kitchen and he hops up and sits on the counter like many of us do. And he talks to his mom the entire time it's happening. She was clear. Your church, the Church of St. James, changed our life. That song, Lord, let us see your kindness and grant us your salvation. So often, when we take a moment to share kindness, to share our love of Christ, it's like the situation we have here. To this day, Brenson and Damien have not met. But for 12-year-old Brenson, on his bucket list is to come to Charlestown, go to church at St. James, and meet Damien. Those are his goals in life. Because somebody took them time to give 2 simple drumsticks. As we gather this day, it feels like God is asking you and me some questions. If your words were seeds that were growing in the ground, and your love was rain that farmers prayed about, if your life was sunlight that we all need, what kind of world would it be? If you reap what you sow, what kind of garden would you grow? Have courage. Our Lord tells us to take 1 walking stick. It's true that Damien cheated a little bit and gave Brenson 2 sticks. But because of that, someone's life was changed. Are you willing to be the Lord's kindness for somebody else without ever hearing the result?